Ascendant, Gemini, Punarvasu Nakshatra. Archetypes activated: the visionary, the messenger, the reformer. Sigrid's ascendant is Gemini, ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, intellect, and adaptability. Gemini ascendants bring a vibrant mental energy into life. They are agile thinkers, often balancing multiple perspectives at once and navigating situations through curiosity, wit, and verbal finesse. Gemini rising individuals tend to approach life with a light touch, but underneath that flexibility lies a deeply strategic and analytical mind. Her ascendant falls specifically in Punarvasu Nakshatra, ruled by Jupiter. Punarvasu is the nakshatra of renewal, reinvention, and emotional optimism. It brings a spiritual softness and an idealistic tone to the otherwise cerebral Gemini. For Sigrid, this adds a poetic, nurturing undercurrent to her quick-thinking nature. She doesn't just talk to impress, she communicates to heal, to reconnect, and to restore clarity where chaos once reigned. Her curiosity isn't shallow, it seeks meaning and emotional resonance. This combination activates the visionary archetype. Sigrid likely sees potential in everything and everyone. She's emotionally tied to the idea of second chances and is drawn to people or projects that have been discarded, misunderstood, or are in need of renewal. Her communication style may be deeply idealistic, able to see the good before the flaw. She isn't just gathering information, she's trying to map a better future with it. The messenger archetype is also strong. Gemini brings the gift of communication, and Punarvasu infuses it with a purpose to bring people home to themselves. Whether through writing, speaking, or teaching, Sigrid likely has a way of simplifying the complex and making people feel emotionally understood through intellectual clarity. Her words carry warmth, not just wit. Overlaying this is the reformer, a result of Punarvasu's moral and ethical compass. There is a longing in Sigrid to reframe narratives, to find hope after disillusionment, and to evolve broken systems of thought. Even in casual conversations, she may unconsciously push people toward their own reinvention, helping them reframe, reflect, and begin again. Psychologically, this ascendant suggests someone who oscillates between intellectual agility and emotional sensitivity. Sigrid likely had to learn from a young age how to speak in ways that soothed or reassured others, perhaps even mediating family tensions or diffusing emotional situations with a well-timed insight. She may sometimes hide her deeper emotional convictions behind humor or cleverness, but when trust is earned, she reveals a quietly steadfast optimism. The challenge with this placement lies in scattered focus or emotional idealism. Gemini can flit between topics, and Punarvasu can become overly hopeful, leading to moments of disillusionment when others don't live up to her ideals. Yet, these very challenges deepen her insight over time, teaching her how to merge wisdom with warmth and how to sustain hope without losing discernment. At her best, Sigrid is a healing communicator, someone who bridges intellect and heart, weaving together logic and emotional truth into something clear, beautiful, and meaningful. She doesn't just express, she restores. Her path is not about mastering one voice. It's about becoming the voice others didn't know they needed to hear. Through this, she not only discovers her own truth, she helps others remember theirs. Mars in the third house, placed in Magha Nakshatra in the sign of Leo. Archetypes activated: the warrior, the performer, the strategist. The third house governs communication, self-expression, skills, courage, and initiative. With Mars placed here, Sigrid possesses a bold, action-oriented mind. Mars thrives in the third house. It fuels decisive speech, sharp thinking, and a proactive approach to problem-solving. Sigrid likely asserts herself clearly, doesn't shy away from confrontation when necessary, and approaches learning and communication as things to conquer rather than coast through. Her tone may be direct, her style confident, and her mental stamina high, especially when she believes in what she's saying. Placed in Leo, Mars expresses itself with charisma and pride. Sigrid's words likely carry a certain gravity. Others may be drawn to the authority, confidence, or fiery conviction with which she speaks. She may have a strong presence in conversations or debates, often taking the lead or setting the tone in peer dynamics. Leo's solar energy adds a desire for recognition, not for vanity, but for respect. She wants her voice to matter. Magha Nakshatra, ruled by Ketu, adds a deep ancestral and leadership frequency to this placement. Magha is regal, linked to heritage, tradition, and the notion of carrying forward a lineage of honor or purpose. Mars in Maga gives Sigrid the ability to speak not just for herself, but as if on behalf of something greater. Principles, family, values, or a cause. Her words can feel authoritative because they come from a place of inner alignment with her own history and purpose. This placement activates the warrior archetype in a highly articulate form. Sigrid is not afraid to defend her ideas, stand up for others, or initiate difficult conversations. She likely values mental strength, independence in thought, and the ability to back up her beliefs with action. She may be the type to fight for clarity, preferring truth over niceties in close communication. The performer comes through in how she expresses herself. With Mars in Leo and the third house, she likely brings a dramatic flair to everyday interactions through voice, timing, or presence. There may be a theatrical or persuasive quality to her communication, even if she's naturally reserved. This is someone who can own a room with words alone. The strategist appears through her focused, intentional thinking. Mars here doesn't ramble, it targets. Sigrid likely prefers conversations with direction and dislikes wasted words. She may also excel at mastering skills that require coordination, precision, and confidence, writing, debate, presentation, or even hands-on technical crafts. Psychologically, this Mars may have developed through early experiences where she had to assert herself, perhaps through sibling rivalry, peer pressure, or needing to stand her ground intellectually. This may have given her a sharp edge early on, but also taught her to value courage in expression. She may sometimes need to balance assertiveness with listening, ensuring that her confidence doesn't overpower collaboration. At her best, Sigrid becomes a leader in communication, not through control, but through clarity. Her words have weight, her actions have intent, and her ideas ignite motion. She teaches that speech is not just sound. It's a sword, a stage, and a strategy all in one. And when used with care, it can open doors that brute force never could. Venus and Rahu in the fifth house, both placed in Swati and Vishaka nakshatras in the sign of Libra. Archetypes activated: the creator, the alchemist, the visionary. The fifth house governs creativity, romance, self-expression, children, and the emotional intelligence of the heart. When Venus, planet of love, beauty, and artistic expression, is placed here alongside Rahu, planet of karmic desire and amplification, Sigrid's creative and emotional world becomes magnetized, complex, and spiritually charged. The fifth house is a natural home for Venus, and in Libra, its own sign, Venus becomes refined, artistic, and deeply relationship-oriented. Rahu, however, intensifies whatever it touches, craving creative brilliance, emotional recognition, or romantic idealism with a near-insatiable pull. Venus in Swati Nakshatra, ruled by Rahu, makes Sigrid's creativity fluid, elegant, and socially responsive. Swati is symbolized by the wind, independent, adaptable, and constantly seeking balance between self-expression and freedom. Venus here makes her artistic instincts light yet precise. She may gravitate toward music, design, writing, or relational expression where beauty is structured but spontaneous. There is also a strong emotional sensitivity to fairness, aesthetics, and the atmosphere of interactions. Rahu in Vishaka Nakshatra, ruled by Jupiter, adds a powerful undercurrent of ambition and transformational emotional drive. Vishaka represents the energy of focused progress. It's about choosing a path and committing to it fully. In the fifth house, Rahu here makes Sigrid deeply invested in crafting a unique identity, especially through her ideas, romantic life, or creative outputs. There's a yearning to be recognized for originality, to stand out, or to transcend traditional norms of beauty, love, or self-expression. This combination powerfully activates the creator archetype. Sigrid likely has an innate ability to generate beauty through language, aesthetics, movement, or relationship dynamics. She doesn't just create for applause, she creates to align with a deeper emotional frequency. Venus in Libra makes her deeply attuned to emotional symmetry. She sees and feels what's out of balance and seeks to refine it artistically. The alchemist is awakened through Rahu's presence. This isn't just lighthearted creativity, it's layered with karmic urgency. Sigrid is learning to transmute emotional longing into meaningful expression. Her emotional highs and lows may fuel her art, her learning style, or the way she loves. She may not always understand why certain themes or desires repeat in her life, but when integrated, they become portals to powerful transformation. The visionary emerges from the combined influence of Rahu and Vishaka. Sigrid likely dreams big, not just for herself, but for how her expression can impact the world. Whether it's through teaching, storytelling, or visual mediums, she may feel compelled to move others emotionally, to break down barriers around love, identity, or creativity, and to express what others are too afraid to name. Psychologically, this placement may manifest as emotional intensity masked in grace. Sigrid may at times struggle with romantic idealism, fear of rejection, or the desire to stand out and belong simultaneously. She might be torn between her craving for deep creative recognition and her need for personal freedom. But over time, these tensions refine her artistry. At her highest, Sigrid becomes a radiant emotional channel, someone whose creative expression resonates because it is both beautiful and brave. She's not just here to make art, she's here to reshape hearts, to teach through joy, and to show that vulnerability, when refined into vision, becomes the most powerful creative force of all. Sun, Moon, Jupiter, and Mercury in the 6th house, all placed in Jyeshtha and Anuradha nakshatras in the sign of Scorpio. Archetypes activated: the strategist, the servant leader, the alchemist. The 6th house governs service, discipline, health, daily work, and how one handles challenge, conflict, and responsibility. With 4 planets, Sun, Moon, Jupiter, and Mercury, clustered in this house, Sigrid's inner and outer life is strongly shaped by a deep drive to serve, improve, and master herself through pressure. The 6th house often reflects the parts of life we can't escape: the necessary work, the habits that sustain us, and the internal battles we must repeatedly face. With this many planets in Scorpio here, Sigrid doesn't just face these battles, she transforms through them. Scorpio intensifies everything it touches, adding emotional power, depth, and a sense of karmic inevitability. There is little surface-level energy in Sigrid's work or service. Everything she does carries a layer of hidden strategy, psychological understanding, or personal reinvention. Sun in Jyeshtha Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, gives Sigrid a protective, senior, and almost regal quality in how she handles responsibilities. She likely sees herself as someone who must lead in service, perhaps taking on more than others, or stepping into roles where emotional steadiness and maturity are demanded. Jyeshtha adds pride and self-respect to the act of being dependable. She shines when she's trusted with complex tasks or given quiet authority in chaotic spaces. Moon in Jyeshtha brings an emotionally intense relationship with service. Sigrid likely needs her work to matter, emotionally and spiritually. She may internalize responsibility for others' well-being and carry hidden stress from trying to keep it all together. This moon placement makes her deeply perceptive in work relationships. She senses emotional undercurrents and may act as the emotional stabilizer in teams or caregiving roles. Jupiter and Mercury in Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, add loyalty, devotion, and long-range thinking to her daily approach. Jupiter here gives moral discipline, a love for mastering complexity, and a natural ability to teach through service. Mercury, ruling her ascendant, gives her strategic thinking, strong communication skills, and the ability to solve problems with emotional intelligence and psychological insight. Anuradha adds a devotional tone. Sigrid doesn't serve because she has to. She serves because it aligns with her inner code. This configuration activates the strategist archetype on multiple levels. With Mercury, Jupiter, and Scorpio influence, Sigrid likely thrives on complexity. She can see patterns others miss, organize chaos, and navigate emotionally loaded environments with tact and focus. Her mind is both investigative and intuitive, ideal for solving problems, designing systems, or working in psychology, research, or healing professions. The servant leader emerges through the sense of duty this house instills in her. She leads not through authority, but through example. People may naturally rely on her, not just for what she does, but for the integrity, grace, and resilience with which she does it. She's likely the kind of person who handles the hard stuff without complaint, but who also expects a high standard from herself and others. The alchemist archetype is awakened by Scorpio's presence and the moon-sun polarity. Sigrid is constantly transforming, using daily challenges to refine her identity, her emotions, and her habits. She may go through several reinventions in life, especially through health, work, or service-related experiences. Her healing process is never surface level. It goes deep, and it becomes a template for how she helps others heal. Psychologically, this setup may lead to emotional burnout if boundaries are not managed. Sigrid may take on too much, give too much, or internalize failures that aren't hers. But with self-awareness, she learns to channel that intensity into work that heals and leadership that transforms. At her best, Sigrid becomes a quiet powerhouse, a woman who heals through structure, serves with strategy, and leads with emotional wisdom. She doesn't just manage life's messiness, she masters it, one careful, soul-aligned decision at a time. Saturn in the 9th house, placed in Punarvasu Nakshatra in the sign of Aquarius. Archetypes activated: the philosopher, the architect, the guardian. The 9th house governs higher knowledge, spiritual belief systems, long journeys, physical and philosophical, and one's relationship with truth and moral guidance. With Saturn placed here, Sigrid approaches these realms with seriousness, maturity, and a deep sense of responsibility. This placement suggests that her philosophical development is not light or spontaneous. It's earned. She may have had to climb toward her truths, questioning dogma, facing spiritual isolation, or slowly crafting a worldview that truly reflects her lived experience. Saturn in the 9th house often brings skepticism early in life or delays in discovering a belief system that feels authentic. But once found, that belief becomes unshakable, built like a cathedral of wisdom. Sigrid is not here to adopt inherited ideologies. She's here to test them, break them down, and reconstruct them through thoughtful application. In Aquarius, Saturn functions in its full strength. This adds a futuristic, reformist, and collective dimension to Sigrid's spiritual and intellectual life. She may be drawn to unconventional philosophies, systemic change, or social justice as an extension of her moral duty. Her beliefs are never selfish. They're wired into her sense of humanity in the future. She wants her truth to serve others, not just comfort herself. Punarvasu Nakshatra, ruled by Rahu, is symbolized by the 100 healers and is deeply associated with solitude, healing, and radical clarity. Saturn here gives Sigrid a solitary, often private relationship with wisdom. She may retreat from mainstream belief systems to explore truth on her own terms, often through science, mysticism, or metaphysical disciplines that bridge the intellectual and the invisible. This nakshatra also gives her a deep sense of emotional distance when seeking understanding, allowing her to observe belief systems without becoming emotionally entangled in them. This placement powerfully activates the philosopher archetype. Sigrid's moral compass is structured and considered. She is not easily swayed by trends or emotional appeals. Her search for truth is internal, long haul, and often shaped by lived difficulty or discipline. She may be drawn to teaching, ethics, philosophy, or cultural reform, but only when she feels those systems have integrity. The architect is revealed in how she constructs her belief systems. Saturn doesn't do random, it plans. Sigrid likely seeks spiritual frameworks that are cohesive, sustainable, and applicable to everyday life. Her faith must work. It must make sense in the real world, not just in theory. This gives her a rare strength, the ability to offer grounded, lasting perspectives that help others through confusion or crisis. The guardian emerges through her relationship with truth as protection. She may feel personally responsible for defending certain values, especially those related to fairness, justice, or humanitarian ideals. She guards the future through the way she upholds principle in the present. There is a quiet nobility here, a sense that truth, once tested, becomes sacred. Psychologically, this placement may bring themes of loneliness or feeling out of step with peers when it comes to beliefs or learning. She may have had to forge her own path, challenge teachers, or experience existential isolation to find what rings true. But these very challenges refine her authority. At her best, Sigrid becomes a wise, future-focused guide, someone who teaches not just what is true, but what will still be true tomorrow. She doesn't offer comfort through blind faith. She offers structure through tested insight. In doing so, she becomes not only a student of life, but a builder of its next chapter. Ketu in the 11th house, placed in Bharani Nakshatra in the sign of Aries. Archetypes activated: the renunciate, the firekeeper, the disruptor. The 11th house governs social networks, community belonging, long-term aspirations, and the rewards we gather through alignment with purpose. With Ketu, the planet of detachment, past life memory, and spiritual refinement, placed here, Sigrid's relationship with groups and goals is marked by subtle resistance, karmic echoes, and a sense of emotional distance from collective ambitions. Ketu in the 11th often signals someone who has already experienced the full spectrum of social or public influence in past lives, and who now finds such things less fulfilling or even burdensome. In Aries, Ketu becomes sharply independent, internally driven, and less inclined to conform to group consensus. While Aries normally charges ahead, claiming identity and space, Ketu in this sign steps back, observing identity as a costume worn in previous lifetimes. For Sigrid, this can create a quiet paradox. She might long to contribute to collective visions, but feel misaligned in group settings or skeptical of communal promises. Bharani Nakshatra, ruled by Venus, intensifies this placement with themes of emotional gravity, transformation, and the sacred burden of purpose. Symbolized by the womb, Bharani is about carrying what must be carried, no matter how uncomfortable. Ketu here suggests Sigrid has karmic residues tied to leadership or service within groups, possibly connected to sacrifice, betrayal, or overextension. In this life, she may feel reluctant to fully commit to any collective ideology, especially if it threatens her inner sovereignty. This placement activates the renunciate archetype. Sigrid may appear socially involved on the surface, but her soul often pulls her away from the noise of public approval or reward. She may naturally resist climbing the ladder in group structures, preferring to walk her own path, detached from the need for recognition. She contributes when she feels it's aligned with her deeper purpose, not because the group expects her to. The Firekeeper emerges through the silent integrity she brings to the collective. Though not always visibly active, her mere presence in a group can hold space for deeper values, higher standards, or quiet transformation. She may not chase visibility, but others may instinctively sense her internal strength and clarity. She serves not through volume, but through presence. And that presence holds power. The disruptor archetype comes alive when Sigrid interacts with groups that feel out of alignment. Ketu in Bharani doesn't tolerate shallow purpose. If a group, friendship circle, or collective vision becomes toxic or untrue, she may walk away swiftly and silently. She doesn't burn bridges, but she doesn't linger either. Her soul is wired to pull away from what no longer carries spiritual weight. Psychologically, this placement may bring feelings of alienation or emotional fatigue in social settings. Sigrid might carry a subtle guilt for not wanting what others want, or she may feel invisible despite her value. But Ketu's gift is wisdom through detachment. The more she honors her intuitive need to stand apart, the more she discovers the purity of her own purpose. At her best, Sigrid becomes a hidden guardian of collective truth, someone who doesn't need the spotlight to create impact. She teaches that not all service is loud, not all purpose is public, and not all leadership requires followers. Her power lies in quiet clarity, karmic discernment, and the courage to remain true to her inner fire, even when the crowd walks another way.